Peace, love, and light. This video is going to be about the Avatar. The Avatar of the series, not the movie. But it's going to be about Avatar. And what I learned from Avatar, kind of like, I don't know if it's unexpectedly or just like something I just came to the realization of kind of recently within myself, but it's something that I learned from the Avatar. I've learned many lessons from the Avatar. One of the things that drew me to the Avatar was, well, besides the overall story, but the fact that it was talking about the chakras, and it was talking about it in a very simple way that I that I could understand, that wasn't too like complicated, but it helped me understand how to get my words right. It wasn't too complicated, and it helped me understand like different things about the chakras that I didn't know about the chakras. Like the scene where he's learning about the chakras. That's when I got a better understanding of the chakras at that time, because it's been years ago now, but I didn't know much about the chakras around that time. Like I knew very little about energy work, very little about the chakras and stuff like that. But that was one of the things that drew me into the show, and I'm very thankful for that foundation, because it helped me build on. It helped me build a lot on just that limited information, and some very profound information. Like I've done the whole onion and banana juice, drinking that to cleanse the chakras, which onion and banana juice tastes really good, and I might do that again at the beginning of the year. But again, this video is going to be about the Avatar and what I learned from the Avatar. For one of the things that I want to share about the Avatar would be that he was not always the Avatar. That may seem obvious to a lot of people, and it may not seem obvious to a lot of people. But the way that I say that he wasn't always the Avatar wasn't just because sometimes his ancestors would come through him. His past incarnations will come through him and speak or do things. That's not the only reason why he wasn't the Avatar all the time. Sometimes different characters around him were the Avatar. That includes Zoku, and that includes Jet, that includes just many different people. Like you can even make an argument for when well, I wouldn't say necessarily he was the Avatar, but he was more so like a reflection of Aang's ego, because one of the things that Aang had trouble dealing with was his confidence. And what would happen was whenever he had problems with his confidence, or whenever they were at his highest, he would face Zoku, or excuse me, in the dream world initially, he would face the Fire King, the Fire Lord, because that was his greatest fear, and his greatest fear was tied to his ego. His greatest fear had to do with him firebending, and being able to firebend, or controlling his ego, and not allowing his ego to get out of hand, which is a very profound lesson for the Avatar, because the Avatar was the complete opposite of the fire of the Fire Lord, or of the Fire Nation, or of the Fire Element, because he was an air sign. And the reason why I say it was a profound thing, because just going back to the chakras, that's your solar plexus and your heart, because your heart is the air element, and you have to balance these two things out before you can go to the spiritual realm. But Aang was coming from the air element, and he was already connected to the spiritual realm, like innately. He was naturally connected to the spirit realm because, for one, he was 12 years old when he started, so he was a child. Children are more connected to the spiritual realm than adults or just someone who is older. So he was already connected to the spiritual realm, and him being connected to the spiritual realm, he couldn't comprehend certain things. He couldn't comprehend worldly things. He didn't have a normal childhood. He didn't spend, or he wasn't like he was a child most of the show, but he wasn't around people that he was familiar with. So he didn't really have anybody that he was really connected to. So the ego is the king of the earthly plane. It rules the earthly plane. Like it decides what goes on the earthly plane. And Aang, coming from a spiritual realm, he was just not of this world. He was not into the worldly things. So that's why it was a profound thing for him to really have to overcome. And that's what I identify with. Like, I have to really connect to the earthly plane, and it's something that I've had like trouble with, because just being 100% transparent, I've always been like of like a spiritual nature, even without knowing necessarily what it was that the spiritual nature was. It's just something that I've always been connected to, and like trying to be in the world and connect with people was kind of like my hardest thing, because I didn't know how to connect with people. But it's something that I've learned over time, and that's something that he also learned over time. Like, he was mostly like his inner child. Like, he experienced joy a lot of the times, until like the later episodes where he kind of like had to grow up a little bit and be more of a serious avatar, or a serious person, or serious being, or whatever you want to call him. But yeah, this is just something that I identify with. But that's beside the point. Like, he wasn't the avatar a lot of times. A lot of times it was just different people throughout the show, and they used a lot of different language to let you know this. Like, even things like Jet is back. That means he was the shadow side of himself, or the shadow side of the avatar. That which means he wasn't good. He was bad. He was like considered the negative version of the avatar, which is why in that episode he was kind of against the avatar, but he wasn't really against the avatar because they were connected. Yeah. I wanted to actually go into depth on that episode, but I don't want to do that here, because I wanted to share what I actually learned from the Avatar that I didn't expect to learn, which was the concept of balance. Something that they talk about, but they don't really like talk about it directly, is the concept of balance. A lot of different things balance out. Like, you can look at the show as just a show, but a lot of the concepts are very real, very tangible to the outside world, like to our world. Like, take for instance the fact that Aang was the Avatar and he was the air sign, and Zoku was a fire element, a fire sign, and he was very, very strong in his ego, and he expressed a lot of anger. And at the same time, he had a very calm and very welcoming nature. And he had a story all his own. And then you also take the relationship he had with Katara. A lot of when I must say that, I mean like Zoku and Katara. A lot of the interactions with them, like, she experienced a lot of passion, because she was like angry at Zoku a lot of the times, because she was a water sign, and he represented like a fire sign. So like that mixed together kind of created like a passion. So like when you saw them, you saw like a love story kind of like happening, like a subtle love story happening between them. But it had to do with the fact that their energies were just mixing, like the fire sign and the water sign. Even though, and this actually happened, like even though water kind of puts fire out, because you can use water to put fire out, and that's why she kind of played the role that she played with him, and she was in a lot of ways stronger than him. But then again, at some points he was stronger than her. Um, but a lot of it was they balance each other out. One of the hardest things for Aang to learn was to use the earth element, because it was kind of, it was I want to say, let's see, it was harder than water. It made sense for him to learn water first, because air and water have some of the same properties, which is hydrogen. They share that property. Um, I'm sorry, I mean hydrogen. I mean oxygen. It's just one of the same properties. I'm sorry, I was thinking about something. Um, and but the characters is what showed you that they needed to balance each other out. Like Katara, Toph balanced. I want to say Zoku out. Like she was the first to accept him. And what does fire use to burn a lot of the times? Wood. And she was one of the first. I want to say the first to do that. She was one of the first to accept him, if not the first to accept him. And the fact that she was like one of the strongest, one of the strongest characters on the show, and then Aang was one of the like most like, he was kind of feminine because he was a mixture of like the spiritual, which is also like the unknown realm, and like a feminine aspect almost, because it's kind of like up here, opposed to being like down here, which is like rooted in like strong masculine energy. So it's like him being like feminine energy and her being masculine energy balance each other out. But it was harder for him to do some of the earthbending techniques, because he was forced to do something that he wasn't used to, which they did make caricatures of her and him, and her being a man and him being a woman. And it just kind of just let you know that their energies were masculine and feminine. But that's not the only time that they did that. They did it a lot when it came to like showing that there were other elements at play. It wasn't just a show, even though it was very entertaining. I was very hooked on the story. Like I've watched the whole series twice in my life, but I watched it literally like every day until the end of the episodes. I mean, until the end of the series. And yeah, but the reason why I bring this up is because these things are very applicable in our lives. What I've been applying it with is the zodiac. Like in this month we have a earth element, and what I've learned from the earth elements is it's a time of rebirth. It's a time of moving the earth outside of you, like um eliminating parts of you that don't help you grow, and then adding in things that do make you grow, things that are fertile, things that are gold, that make your soil rich. So the things that you are seeking to manifest can grow outside of you and be fruitful. That's something I've learned about the earth elements. And this is not the first time I've noticed this. This is Capricorn. I noticed this also in Virgo, where I was able to decode a lot of information, and I felt way more enlightened during that period. And it's just like this time, except I think it's a little bit more amplified, because some of the stuff that I'm like really understanding and really like uncovering and really getting clarity on is so interesting. And I haven't even made a video about some of it, but it's so interesting, like the stuff that I'm getting. And I was gonna I've been like focusing on, like when I'm in like a specific element, I focus on eating the same way as the element. Like we're in a earth sign, a earth element. So I would normally be focused on like eating more solid foods and taking in more earth. But something I've learned, I've thought about it today, but I don't know how true it is yet. I'm gonna experiment it with a little bit more, with it a little bit more. But we're in Capricorn, and we just had a moon in Cancer, which is a water sign. So what I was thinking earlier was, since the sun sign or the sun is in Capricorn and the moon is in Cancer, which is, that's earth and a water sign. So I've been so earlier this week I was being called to drink more water and to get more in tune with that. Even though I had been drinking water while I was actually getting the message, but I was being called to drink more water, whereas I was thinking that I should be eating more food, be eating more earth. But I wasn't really being called to do that, even though I had eaten enough within the past, within the days leading up to me actually getting that message. But it just felt more right to drink more water. And it kind of feels like whenever we're going through these elements, we should be living in the element. We should be, for instance, eating more earth during this time, but also following what the moon does, or following the energy that the moon brings. Like if the moon is in, for instance, like it is now in Cancer, we should be drinking more water and taking in more of the water. But I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure about this. I don't want to say that, but I think that's how we're supposed to balance out. We're supposed to use the energy of the earth and the moon to determine what type of balance we need, or what we need to be focused on during specific times of the year. And this is something that I'm kind of still working on, because I don't know what it is yet, but it feels like it's something that's supposed to happen, and it's something that we're supposed to do, but I don't know necessarily what to call it or why it is that way yet. But it just feels more natural to live that way, to live in accordance with the what's going on in the heavens, what's going on in the cosmos, opposed to what we've been taught over time, like just eating because we're hungry, and not really thinking about anything bigger or higher than our plate. But that's just the way we've been taught to live. We've been taught to like think that this is what's important, like what's in front of us is what's important, rather than what's around us being what's important. And something too It's like being in a water sign. Like I've always been taught that the full moon is when you manifest. A lot of the full moons is when you manifest. Because some full moons you don't manifest. You're supposed to like either be neutral or do nothing, or you're supposed to release or something like that. Like it's different, but the majority of the time you're manifesting during the time of the full moon. But something that I learned the other night, and I learned this from watching or being on the Zoom call with the BWO Black World Order, is that we're supposed to treat our bodies, because they were talking about it. They were talking about it in a different way, but the way I understood it, the way it connected to me was we're supposed to treat our bodies this way. We're supposed to treat our bodies like a water cycle. Like we're supposed to keep that energy circulating. And since the water ties to the blood, it's supposed to go through a cycle. It's not supposed to just do one thing. It's supposed to do many things. And what the water cycle is like precipitation. Precipitation comes down and it, excuse me, it comes down and um, it goes into, hold up. It comes down from the clouds, and when it does that, it rains, and then it goes into the ocean, and then it evaporates from the oceans and the lakes and the streams, and then it goes back up into the atmosphere, and then it just starts the cycle over again, but it's a continuous cycle. So it comes down from the clouds, and then it drops down into like a lake, river, or on the earth or whatever. But it goes down into a set space, and then from that set space, it rises, changes its form, and then goes back up. But at the same time, it's going in a constant cycle. So when you take in water, it doesn't just come in you and then just go back out. It goes through a cycle. So what that means is you're supposed to constantly be drinking water. And what they connected it to, and what the person that was talking about it connected it to, which is Jake, he connected it to money. How we're supposed to keep our money circulating. And it's just something that I learned about money is it follows the moon. So if money follows the moon, then we're supposed to be drinking in accordance to what the moon does. And it helps the water or the energy of our body, or that particular energy in our body, circulate and move. But we're supposed to constantly be bringing that energy in. We're supposed to be constantly drinking water to keep that energy circulating, to keep the water circulating, to keep money also circulating. Because water becomes your blood, and water is pumped by your heart, and that's what causes the circulation inside of your body. Well, the circulation of the blood inside of your body. And you're supposed to be constantly like doing that. Like it goes into the different parts of your body, but it's supposed to be constantly moving. It's not supposed to be stagnant. It's not supposed to not be moving. So you want to constantly be giving it reason to move and giving it jobs to do. Like this is also like the idea of staying active. You're not supposed to be just sitting still doing nothing. You're supposed to be constantly keeping your blood flowing and making sure that you're stretching out and making sure that you're doing all kinds of different things to make sure that your energy stays flowing. But that's just something that I kind of learned from last night. But it's also something that um, I was just thinking about in terms of because I've always well, I haven't always. I had recently come into the realization that the more water that I intake, the more I attract money, and the more I have money circulating into my life. So it's directly connected to the amount of water that I intake. But but it's also other things as well because it's not just water. It's also realizing that there is a greater connection. Like you have to do a lot of things, but that's one of the things that I had to realize. And you have to constantly be working on your energy work, your vibration, because that helps in your overall ability to do certain things. But this is just like the connection that I discovered with not only money but like with the earth and the cosmos and the zodiac because all of this stuff is connected. None of it is separate from anything. Like I'm getting a greater understanding of that and I'm doing it through experience. But I'm sharing my experience because I think that it's important and I think that other people can benefit from hearing my experience. And it's just a lot of things on my mind. I'm kind of thinking about other stuff that's connected to this, and I don't know necessarily how to connect it with this yet. But I'm gonna come back with another video about this, if not today, which it more than likely won't be today, but it'll definitely be soon when I probably when I watch this back and see like the things that I left out. But yeah, Avatar was a great lesson for me. Like it taught me a lot about balance. And I was also gonna say that you have to balance the masculine and feminine energy out in your body as well. You have to balance out the spiritual and the material or earthly energy within yourself as well. Like one of the things that I learned, well, I thought about weeks ago was what you attract is what you lack. Meaning the things that you're attracted to in this world is things that you are lacking, and this and that's the reason why you're attracted to it because it's something that you feel you lack or something that you don't see in yourself, but it's something that you just need to learn or need to understand within yourself. And I want to say that balance isn't just like this is another thing that I learned from Avatar. Like I had a dream about Avatar, and in the dream I was watching Aang balance on a ball, but he couldn't really keep his balance because of whatever reason. And if you've ever seen the show, you've seen him, you know, balance on like the air ball that he's known for that he created. You know, when he was playing with his friends, but he couldn't keep his balance in the dream that I had, and he was like looking towards the screen, and for some reason or another he just couldn't keep his balance. And what I connected to that was it was a representation of me not being able to keep my balance at that time in my life and not really understanding how or why I couldn't keep my balance. Because I appeared to be able to keep my balance. I appeared to be the avatar. I appeared to be, you know, this great being, but not really aware of certain things that I wasn't aware of, but not knowing that I wasn't aware of them. But the thing I learned from that was you have to step outside of that the idea of what balance is, because what I thought balance was you saying on one scale or the other, but that's not balance, because if you're on one scale or the other, you're constantly having to, do this kind of thing to wobble, to wobble. You're constantly having to wobble to maintain your balance. But if you get off the scale, if you step back and you just watch the scales, you will understand balance opposed to being on the scale or jumping from scale to scale and calling that balance, because it's not balance, that's imbalance. But it looks like balance, and it may look entertaining, and it may seem entertaining to you or to other people, but that's not what balance is. Balance is knowing that these two things exist, seeing what they are, and being the energy that observes these things, but is not controlled by these two things. And that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned about balance. Period. Just allowing myself to be away from the idea that I have to be on the scale, going, all kinds of directions, claiming that I have balance or that I have control over this particular thing when I don't. It's not about having control over it. It's about having an understanding of it and being able to observe what it is that the thing is in the first place. Because you can be the thing that is constantly, doing this to balance, but that's not where you want to be. That's not giving you the lesson that you need to learn. The lesson that you need to learn exists beyond the spotlight or being in that position where you're, you know, being the thing that needs to maintain your balance in that way. I don't know if I said that great, but I hope I said that great. Because if I didn't, then I have to go back and correct it. But yeah, your goal should be to step outside of the need to be like moving, all kinds of directions, unstable and volatile. You don't want to be volatile. You want to be 333. You want to be balanced. You want to be stable. I think the best way to say it is you want to be stable. You don't want to be volatile, because when you're stable, you're calm. You'll have a better understanding of what's going on. But if you're volatile, you can't really understand anything because you're constantly changing. You're constantly looking in each and every direction or being in each and every direction, and you don't really have a understanding of the situation, and you're not willing to get an understanding of the situation because you're moving too much. Your energy is not focused, and you want your energy to be focused. Because if your energy is focused, you're able to accomplish more. You're able to understand more. You're able to take in more. You're able to experience more. But you have to be stable to do that. And that's what I've learned. And that's what I learned from the Avatar. Like, just to be balanced. I want to say one of the things that happened in the Avatar, which is when Azula like really has a downfall, because she is seen as somebody who really has it together like throughout the whole show until she loses her friends. But you can tell, for one, she represents you can tell that she represents the throat chakra from the first thing she does, which is she lies. But also, you can tell that she represents the throat chakra because of the energy that she uses. She uses the lightning to firebend. That's her type of firebending. But that lightning is also a representation of the electricity that goes through your spine, which is why she's able to do it so well because she has an understanding of it. She has a higher consciousness than pretty much everybody on this show until a certain point because she is so focused on achieving, but she's not doing it in a positive way. She's not doing it in a good way. She's just able to do it because she has an understanding of it from like just being an overachiever or a perfectionist. But that's not what the energy is about because that's unbalanced. You're not meant to do things just to please others or to make other people feel bad, and which is what Azula is pretty much known for. But you have characters like Roku. You have characters like oh my god. You have characters like Iroh who has the knowledge of lightning bending, but he doesn't use it to fight. He uses it to like direct, which shows that he represented like the spine because he sent that energy, through him, but he didn't use it to like attack. He just used it to redirect, which is what the spine does. Like you you use that energy to redirect. And anybody from the Fire Nation is pretty much representation of the ego. I had to pause because I don't know if I had said that part, but I'm saying it now just in case I didn't. But anybody from the Fire Nation pretty much represents the ego, and so he would get that energy and he would simply redirect it. This is why he would redirect it because he understood his place. He understood what he was. He understood that his energy was meant to be of the ego or to be of the Fire Nation. He wasn't meant to use that type of energy to like attack or to destroy anybody. He would use that energy to just simply redirect and allow that energy to be what it was. And but that's why he would do that because he represented the ego and he understood his place in that way. But a lot of times your ego takes the energy that comes up, like if it's like a memory, if it's like an emotion, if it's like a thought or anything like that, and it kind of like misdirects it and causes it to go like maybe in like the wrong direction because it thinks that you should be doing this rather than doing what you want to do. Like it focuses on like, I want to say this is like a mind thing too, but when it's done in a way that's like malicious or to be mean, it's like the ego trying to tell you what to do or that you're wrong for doing what you do. Like whenever you feel bad about doing something that you like to do or something that you're confident in doing, then it's your ego trying to stop you from doing something that it's not sure that you want to do or something that it heard you say that was kind of against what you are doing now. But yeah. And that's why Zoku wanted to be the Avatar most of the time, because he didn't understand energy. But as time went on, he was able to understand energy more, and he was able to use that energy to help the Avatar rather than to fight the Avatar. And that's another good lesson from the Avatar. But they ended up having a connection anyway. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of great lessons in the Avatar, and I'm still learning to this day the things that the Avatar was teaching. And I haven't even watched the Avatar in months now. 444. I haven't watched it in months now. I've been watching Naruto for about, what's this? Well, I can't even remember when I started watching Naruto. I've been watching that for at least 3 or 4 months. It has to be at least since September, maybe even before then. But I've been watching Naruto for a while, and I haven't watched Avatar since the beginning of this year, and it's almost next year, and I'm still learning from that. And I watched it maybe like 7 years ago for the first time, and I'm still learning lessons from that. With that, but even with that being said, I love the Avatar, and yeah, but there's a lot of lessons that I've learned from it. Um, and I may even come back one day one day and share even more information about the Avatar, because there's so many hidden gems in it that I couldn't even possibly remember everything. But what I've remembered in this point in time was definitely meant to be remembered and definitely meant to be expressed. So, with that being said, I love you, and I hope that you have a great day.